Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing well. So we've been going through a series called Stronger, where we've been trying to figure out how God can take these moments in our lives and make us to be stronger people. But before we get too far into this, I need to confess something to you all. I cannot stand people who walk too slow. And I mean that like when people walk in the hallways and I know you guys are in, like there's you in school, you're trying to get to your class and there's that one group of friends that feel like they need to walk from one side of the hallway to the other side and just walk as slow as humanly possible. So not only are they walking slow, but they're making it so you can't even get through the group to get to where you need to be. Or if you're on the street and you're trying to get somewhere, like I'm someone who walks fast on a pretty typical basis, have a pretty quick pace. So when I get behind someone who's just taking their time, like, move, get out of the way. Fortunately, I have yet to actually yell at someone like that. I have told maybe picked up my own kids and just said, get out of the way. But that's just something that just drives me insane. Is about the fact, like, okay, I have somewhere to go. You may not have somewhere to go, but I have somewhere to go. So what are some things that drive you, insane? Things you cannot stand. Like maybe it's something like, the old favorite, pineapple on pizza. Like who puts pineapple on pizza? That's a fruit. Like, no. Or maybe it's people like who hum too loudly. Those people who like they're really into a song, but they hum super loud, so you can't even think because you're too busy hearing about them humming. Or people who chew with their mouth open. Can you imagine that? Having to look inside someone's mouth and hear and see the food that's in. I don't want that. I'm trying to eat my food. I don't need a show that has your food in it. I want to eat my food. There's just so many things that just kind of drive us insane, right? Okay. Sorry. But, so maybe you didn't, maybe you don't agree with every annoying thing that we just talked about, but let's be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves here. It's kind of fun sometimes to hate things, right? It can be kind of fun. When someone calls out something that they hate, we often really want to like join in and pile on it, right? I'm sure those of you who are watching this probably went, oh my goodness, I can't stand people who chew with their mouth open either. He's right. But although it's pretty harmless to gang up on, something that's kind of silly, like pineapple on pizza, have you ever noticed how easy it is for us to, just gang up on other people? Sometimes it's like we're just waiting for someone to make a mistake so that we can just gang up on them and just get on them. When one person is angry or scared or mean enough that it doesn't take much for their negative emotions to spread to other people. Pretty soon, an entire group of people will just join in, united by their shared anger or their hatred for what's happening. So psychologists actually use this word, like mob mentality, to explain this phenomenon. And what that actually reminds me of, that scene in Beauty and the Beast where Gaston's all caught up and he's like, we're gonna get the beast, and like the whole village then gets together and then they all sing a song about it and march towards the castle because they're all gonna kill the beast. And so when I hear mob mentality, that's usually the first thing I think of, Disney musicals. It's just, I have two little girls, that's what happens. So now you've probably never, joined an angry mob that, with pitchforks and torches and things like that. I hope not, at least. But I'm guessing you've seen a group of people, gotta gather together and just gang up on someone before. Anyone who's been on any form of social media has probably seen that all the time. So, and don't get me wrong. Sometimes people need to be called out. That, especially when they're guilty of harming other people in some way, or, in those cases, a public call out is an attempt to hold that person accountable for their actions. But the issue comes with the glee that many of us get from, ganging up on other people, especially when they've already, fallen or been knocked down. Doing that, it shows us something important really about ourselves. God has designed us to thrive in relationships with each other. But instead of coming together in healthy relationships, we often come together in judgment or of hatred of other people. And that's not what God intended with our relationships. For the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about what we can do when we face losses and challenges or failures, and we talked about how Jesus can redeem what's gone wrong, and how when life doesn't make sense, God can always be trusted. But today, I don't want to talk about your hurt or your pain. I want to talk about what we do when others are hurting. It's easy to gang up on someone, but when someone is in pain or has made a big mistake, what might it look like for us to gather around in a different way? So last week we talked about several people who suffered in ways that didn't seem to make a lot of sense. We said that after Jesus died and rose again and then left earth, Jesus' followers had their faith tested in some pretty significant ways. Because the Roman government was threatened by the message of Jesus and the new kingdom Jesus came to announce, Jesus' followers were being captured, they were being imprisoned, they were being tortured, and they were being killed. They knew Jesus had called them to share the good news, the gospel, all over the world, but they're being severely punished for it. Last week we read a part of a letter written by a man named Peter, who wrote to his fellow Jesus followers to encourage them. So today, I want to read a part of a letter written by another man named Paul. So Paul wrote a letter to a group of Christians living in Rome, a letter that we now call Romans. So this is Romans chapter 5, verses 2 to 5. So Romans 5, verses 2 to 5. All right, it says, "Through him we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in hope of the glory of God. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us." See, Paul says that we can rejoice in our pain. That seems a little weird. Nobody throws a party when they fail a test. No one gets super excited when their heart gets broken or when they make a big mistake. But Paul says we have a legitimate reason to find joy in our pain. We rejoice because loss and failure produce perseverance, and perseverance over time produces character. But let's face it, no matter what Paul says, have you ever tried to be happy about your own pain and suffering? It's not easy. It's not. But let me remind you, what I just said a moment ago when I gave the context of this letter. Paul's words weren't written to an individual person. They were written to an entire community. Paul assumed this letter would be read by an entire church together. A group of people committed to God and to each other. If we want to understand what Paul is saying here, we have to understand the context that Paul was writing it in. So with that in mind, a few pages later, it shouldn't be surprising that Paul talks in greater detail about how we can take care of each other. And it's not a change of the subject. This is a continuation of what he's talking about. So this is Romans 12, verses 9 through 21. So Romans 12, 9 through 21. It says, "Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not be slothful in zeal. Be fervent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints, and seek to show hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by doing so, or by so doing, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So again, Paul tells us to rejoice in our suffering, but this time, it's right in the middle of advice on how we can love each other better. And that's not an accident here. Paul wanted his readers to understand that he was writing to all of them, a community that was committed to each other. See, Paul knew something that we need to remember. When life goes wrong, God gives us each other. When something hurtful is done to us, God gives us each other. When we suffer a tragedy or a loss, God gives us each other. When we make huge mistakes, God gives us each other. I said I don't want to talk about our pain today, though. Instead, I want to talk about the pain of others and what we're going to do about it. So when someone in our lives is hurting, grieving, or experiencing big failure, how do we respond to that? Will we ignore them? Will we pile on in judgment or in anger? Or will we gather around them in love? And if we decide to gather around them in love, what should that even look like? How do we know when someone is hurting, and what should we do about it? So, I want to tell you a story. So, on April 26, 2008, the Central Washington Wildcats and the Western Oregon Wolves were playing a game of college softball that would live on in the history books. It's actually, some of you might know where I'm going with this. And this is actually a game that would decide which team would make it to the NCAA Division II playoffs. So with 2 runners on base in the second inning of a then 0-0 game, Sarah Tukolsky stepped up to the plate for the Wolves. Now, she had never hit a home run ever. In college and high school ever. And actually, I read into this, she had 4 hits all season. But apparently, there's going to be a first time for everything. See, what would be the last at-bat of her career? Boom! Knocks one right out of the park. Home run. So her other teammates crossed home plate, and Sarah really should have been right behind them. But unfortunately, she injured her knee when she pivoted towards first base. She actually tore her ACL. So from the looks of it, she was not going to be credited with the home run. See, the rules state that she has to round the bases herself to get the home run. If her teammates were to help her out in any way, they even touched her, her once-in-a-lifetime power hit would only be scored as a 2-run single. So, fortunately, some people on her other team recognized that she needed help and stepped up. So, after making sure that Sarah was agreeable, the first baseman for the other team, her name was Mallory Holtman, and her teammate named Liz Wallace actually picked Sarah up and carried her around the bases, slowly dropping her down on each base so that she could put her foot down as they went. Sarah crossed the home plate and was credited with a well-deserved 3-run home run. That's incredible. Look, Sarah's injury was painful and very unexpected. She probably felt angry with herself, frustrated at the situation, and probably embarrassed at the ways that things had happened. But do you see what her opponents did for her? Their actions reflected so much of the words that Paul wrote to the Church of Rome. When they saw Sarah's pain and failure and loss, they didn't just pretend that they cared about her. They clearly, really cared. They honored her. They practiced enthusiasm and joy and hope and patience and hospitality. They celebrated her in her victory, and they mourned with her in her pain. They weren't too proud to help her, and they refused to see her as an enemy to be hated or to be ignored. They saw her as a person to be loved. Every time we see someone fall, either in pain or in failure, we have an opportunity to pick them up and help them finish the game. And when we do, we all win together. We all grow strong together. We all build character together. We all model hope, joy, and selfless love to the world around us together. Did you hear what these girls, if you look into it, these girls, they go on to say about the reaction from the crowd. People were moved watching this happen. Why? Well, maybe it's because deep down, we know that we're designed to do life together. So, before we wrap up, before we get done today, I want us to kind of take a moment to put into practice something we've talked about today. So, look, if you're watching this and if you're really hurting right now, we want to pray for you. We want to be there for you. We want to tell you how much you are loved. I know life is difficult and painful right now. It's hard, and both for us and for those around us, it's hard. And so I hope that when you realize, that life is getting hard, that you also recognize that when life goes wrong, God gives us each other. So whether you're in this building or not, you're a part of this ministry, you're a part of my life, you're a part of all of our lives. So if I'm telling you that if you're struggling with anything right now, talk to me. Tell us, let us know. We want to be here for you. We want to pray for you. We love you so much. If you can't talk to us, that's fine. Talk to somebody. Talk to your parents. Talk to your friends. But remember that we're not meant to do any of this stuff alone. We're meant to be here together. We are a community, and that's what's so important. So, with that, I love you guys. Like I said, I'm here for you. We're all here for you. Have a great rest of the week. Have a good time at school. And again, if you need anything, just let me know. Talk to you later. Bye.